Ready? Play.
Eddie and I are here to preview the upcoming match in Miami, the fourth round. I still have to check and double check and triple check. I never quite know whether we're in round 3, 4, or the quarterfinals, as the men's and the women's draws are sort of overlapping, I think, slightly. So I think we have one day when they're in the same round. Today we're in different rounds. I think the men are in the third round and the women are in the fourth round, I think. Anyway, if I'm wrong, I'll edit it out later, or I'll just leave it in and admit my own mistake. Anyway, we're here to preview Paula Badosa against Alex Eala. Alex Eala, I think maybe we should start with her, Eddie. Her being here is a little bit of a surprise, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when you said fourth round there is sort of you would never have bet on her getting the fourth round before the start of the tournament, really. Um, I mean, even I was sort of saying, well, does she just sort of deserve the wild card this time? I mean, I've always wild cards are,
They're
how
wild
can you say that
sometimes.
someone does? Yeah, how can you say that someone
Darwin
deserves
Blanche
it?
Madrid is maybe. I mean, maybe there's a more extreme example, but that's the first one that comes to mind last year.
But and to be fair to her, I feel like, I mean, although, I mean, there's been a lot of attention to her for a long time, I feel like she's sort of steadily been improving,
Mm.
even if it's been a bit slow. But like and I think maybe this is a product of that hard work. I mean, she was so happy to get that win against Madison Keys. She was elated. But I mean, you know, uh, maybe to give her credit, she's definitely always been. I've always got the impression that she's got a lot of passion, and then she really wants to improve, and she's probably working hard all the time with her coaches, and this is I guess you know for that determination, this is her reward, and here we are.
Steady improvement, I think, is the right word. Live
Hmm.
ranking of 117. I think it's just because there was so much anticipation, partly because of where she's from in the world, and I want to come to that in a second in terms of the Philippines and just having a new sort of country on the tennis map, sort of thing. Plus the Rafa Nadal Academy. I think there's always, from Casper Ruud all the way through to Eala and beyond, there's always a bit more intrigue about these players, given the level of coaching and the level of sort of interest that academy attracts. And the documentary on Amazon from 3 or 4 years ago where Eala was pretty prominent there as well, I think that brings her to people's attention. So that sort of combination, the IMG thing as well to some extent, does mean she's had a bit more attention. And I think a lot of people were anticipating a sort of João Fonseca-esque, Mira Andreeva-esque meteoric rise, and it just never quite came. And then, of course, winning the US Open Juniors sort of
Hmm.
added to that. And yet it's been a steady progress. And as I say, live ranking 117. However, this week has been meteoric. I mean, you mentioned, how worthy she's sort of justified her wild card because she's beaten Volley-Nets in straight sets, Ostapenko in straight sets, and now Madison Keys in straight sets. I had to sort of rub my eyes and see that scoreline again. Before I get your thoughts on sort of how that match unfolded, I'm going to tell you something that you may well be aware of. But even when I became aware of this, it sort of kind of made sense to me. So I'm just going to read this out to you on the
Okay.
WTA website. In the end, the numbers were telling. Keys finished with 51 unforced errors and just 22 winners. Eala was more efficient with 13 winners and just 21 unforced errors, breaking Keys 6 times in the process. And Eala said after the match, my game plan was to stick with what I know and to run. I
Hmm.
knew the situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, didn't actually see the match live, but I did watch the highlights, and I've
Mhm.
read what people were saying about it. Yeah, it did sound like Keys had a bit of a nightmare in terms of the number of unforced errors, but I would say Ayala was giving it her best, and you know she can defend well, even if she doesn't have, maybe certainly doesn't have quite the power of a Keys or some of these bigger players, but then. she can, on this quicker court, I think it can work to her advantage. She can counter punch and use that pace against them. And, I guess maybe in this case, she was able to draw the errors from Keys, and that's, done the job for her on the day. And sometimes, in tennis, it's I really think like how much do you actually want it? I mean, clearly for Keys, it's not like that she doesn't want to win, but she's come off, an Australian Open title, whereas for Eala, it really was like a final in that respect, and maybe if you're not really just feeling it, like maybe Keys was, then that playing an opponent like that can just sort of make things a bit worse, really.
When you come off an unbeaten run, and I think the desire to just and the confidence from that unbeaten run that Madison Keys would have had during some of those really tough battles she had in Indian Wells. Was it Vekic? And there might have been another one. Was it Mertens? Maybe two very close matches that perhaps the determination to keep the run going or the confidence that she'd been building throughout the year got her through those matches when perhaps if it wasn't for the unbeaten run that she may well have lost. And when the unbeaten runs sort of come to an end, they often do come to an end in a pretty emphatic, maybe way. In I'm thinking of other sports, particularly football, where I remember. I mean, you can have a situation where a team doesn't concede a goal for 5, 10, 15 hours, and you can see the desperation that every single member of the team has to keep that going. Then when it does get, when the dam is broken, if you like, there's an avalanche of goals perhaps. And same with unbeaten runs. I remember the one with Arsenal on that they carried through their invincible season, and then the following season, and they lost one, and then they went and lost several more in quick succession. And it's kind of normal, and probably even more so in an individual sport where confidence can obviously fluctuate a lot more in an individual than it can in a team. And so I think we went into this tournament having seen her, and of course, the dam broke quite badly for Madison, didn't it, against Arina Sabalenka in terms of the scoreline in Indian Wells. And then coming into this tournament, although maybe Miami might suit Madison a bit better than Indian Wells, I probably wasn't expecting big things because I think, as you said, the all that sort of focus and determination and all that energy that would have gone into winning in Australia that could have carried on, when she was still winning matches both before and after. Now that isn't there anymore. It's probably the French Open can't come soon enough in some ways, or maybe even Strasbourg, the title that she has to defend. But I want to bring us back now to Eala and Badosa. Before we switch to Badosa, tell us a bit about Eala and how much of a, because I see it, I work, in the media, and I know when we do something on 3 or 4 players on the women's tour and 1 or 2 on the men's, that I just know that the internet is going to blow up. And weirdly enough, Eala is one of them, despite her ranking being outside the top 100.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's well known that she's come from the Rafa Nadal Academy from a fairly young age. I think 13 years of age, she first went there. And yeah, I mean, the hype obviously being from the Philippines, which
Yeah.
is a country, not known for its tennis stars for sure. And, she's already,
115 million. I'm just having a quick look at the population. So it's
yeah, so
probably
the population,
a lot bigger than people
huge.
realize.
Yeah, it's a big country in terms of population, and yeah, I mean, I've even noticed. Obviously, I've got just a few videos, maybe 1 or 2 up of Eala.
Hmm. Yeah.
Since this run, you see the views have gone up and that, and you start to get. I've noticed that you see, and there's a lot of comments on any of the videos for her on YouTube and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's already getting a big attention, and yeah, I mean, that's probably not easy to sort of deal with that level of tension. I mean, she obviously having won, the US Open juniors, right? And then that brought with it its own attention. But then, um, yeah, I mean, I think she's even been on the cover of Vogue magazine.
Oh, really?
If you look at my
Okay.
shorts, I might have a video of Eala at the
Yeah.
US
Let's have a
Open.
look. Let's have a look.
Yeah. So,
How long ago would it be? Do I need to
uh,
keep going down?
uh, uh, US
That's
Open.
Ningbo,
Oh,
Coleman
back
Wong.
up,
Yeah.
back up, back up. There's an Eala there. Yeah, 10K videos. I mean, that's one of my highest ones. So
Oh, here, Alex Eala at the
just
US
to
Open.
illustrate, 10K. So you
Yeah.
know, The other ones
Yeah.
have only hundreds even. So yeah, so I mean, just to illustrate a point there, and but it's I mean, yeah, as I say, like maybe the expectation was a little bit too much, but there's no doubt that she's been working really hard, and it's obviously great to see a new player doing well from a country that hasn't had that tennis she doesn't had any tennis players doing well, but in the singles anyway, and like but we've also they've got the parallels with Coleman as well. Coleman Wong also coming from
Yeah.
Rafa Nadal Academy, and obviously representing Hong Kong, which has not had yeah, it's the same kind of situation. So yeah, just nice story for them to be able to do that well in this tournament.
She surprised me as well. I mean, in this run, because I was pretty much, Damien and I were on a similar page a couple of days ago when we were talking about her upcoming match against Keys. In that, yeah, we probably were maybe a little bit deceived about her potential a couple of years ago. I saw her practice at the Nadal Academy about a year ago, and I saw somebody who that particular day, and it can just be one day, she seemed a bit forlorn at times, frustrated on others, and yeah, wasn't playing her best tennis that particular day in practice. But they can happen. But sometimes these memories stick a bit more when you see them unfolding in front of your very eyes. Anyway, she's here in the fourth round, and maybe she's going to go on and have a stellar career, and perhaps certainly prove me wrong, because I'm sort of thinking I'm just probably reducing my expectations slightly, and maybe that might even do her some favors. Okay, she's going to be playing Paula Badosa, as we said, so we should probably give Paula due recognition. I mean, she's had an interesting run, albeit just 2 matches, of course, as a seed to this stage. But that match over Mboko and her comments about, I can't believe I'm playing somebody who's playing as well as Arina Sabalenka. And I've said it in a much longer and less concise way than she did, and it was much more amusing when she said it. I've heard players say that before. I mean, there's one at the French Open, isn't there? Maybe like really early in the Nadal French Open situation. But I also saw last year Mickelson in Werash saying he was playing Dennis Novak. So he's like, why is this? I thought this is Dennis Novak, not Novak Djokovic. And I heard it right because it was right in front of me. It was very amusing. And yeah, Paula had a similar comment about Mboko. And Mboko, of course, has been a bit of a sensation in many ways at this tournament, a real sort of headline so far from the first 7 days. And then Paula overcame Towson, who's been sort of one of the players of the year, I would say, on the WTA side in straight sets. But maybe
Yeah.
Paula Badosa's sort of 12 months has been a little bit under the radar compared to the sort of year before when she was largely injured. We sort of knew that she was having injury issues, and we were concerned whether she was ever going to come back, never mind come back to something close to her best. But I
Mm-hmm.
think certainly the US Open run impressed me last year, and then the way she went out kind of disappointed me. So it was kind of mixed feelings about that. But then she pushed Ego, I think, to 3 sets in the Billie Jean King Cup. And whenever I've seen her play, the eye test has been very promising for Paula. And I think there's a big title not far away for her at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course getting to semis in Australia as well. And the only thing is that maybe, you know, since that happened, she's not exactly been, well, there hasn't not been setting the world alight. She's a bit unlucky as well because she got injured, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously didn't play Indian Wells, but she's come back here in this tournament and done pretty well. So that's a good result there against Towson and straights, and she was pretty pleased as well when she won that match. I mean, she dropped to the ground as well. So yeah, probably was just concerned that after being out through injury that she'd maybe lost her spark. But no, it's a good victory, and then yeah, it's interesting because I mean, obviously Baldoza also, she's an aggressive baseline game, and can Eala though? Does she have enough in her game to be able to get past Badoza? I mean, probably on paper she has when we're thinking before the match, you'd say maybe she has a better chance against Badoza than she does against Madison Keys, but perhaps Keys didn't, she didn't play that well by her standard. Maybe the way that she plays is she likes to
Yeah.
you go for the winners and sort of keep the points short. Whereas and so maybe on those days, when she's not playing well, yeah, she's going to hit errors, right? But yeah.
Badosa sort of doesn't strike me in someone of almost any category in terms of she doesn't seem to be too impatient, but she also, let's say she's measured. Maybe that's a better way. She's certainly not quite as erratic as even two top five players such as Madison Keys and Aryna Sabalenka are in some respects. Sabalenka sort of now is
Hmm.
pretty consistent, to be fair, for someone who hits the ball that hard. But she still has her off days. Badosa has her off days, but they're in a slightly different way. And I think you're right to highlight that she's not Madison Keys -1. She's just different, and I think that difference, maybe as you said, that Eala can just frustrate someone and just make the other player really work for the point. And
Hmm.
I just think that Paula's probably one of her, maybe her, if I should mention, maybe she's good at constructing the points, and therefore she will
Yeah,
ultimately probably have too much for Eala.
she might have a bit too much power and a bit be able to outmaneuver her. But at this point, we maybe shouldn't be
Yeah, I
writing
mean,
off
listen,
Eala.
you mentioned about the comments. I mean, I said before the Keys match that I struggle to imagine, I think, an Ayala win, but it's been a great tournament for her or something like that. And of course, the comments are coming in right now. And sometimes these previews, they can even spike after the match because I think maybe people want to go back and see what we were saying 24 hours before.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny
So
that.
yeah, we may well, or I may well, get to eat my words once again, and that's fine. But yeah, I just think that it's difficult for me to see. But as I say, it's difficult for me to see her beating Keys. But then it just adds to the likelihood of it continuing. And just right now, maybe a year from now, Ayala will have grown another step forward in every part of the game, and this might be a very different match. But as it stands, unless I think Badosa, much like Keys anyway, needs to have a really sort of off day.
Yeah, and I mean, when we talk about sort of the hunger as well, I mean, I think obviously Badosa's, sort of in that you could say peak period at the moment. So I mean, she's going to have that as well at the moment after this, a good victory as well over Towson, and she won't be underestimating Eala for sure, I think, and yeah, I'm kind of expecting that she will get it done and bring Eala's run to an end. But I mean, perhaps I mean I don't doubt that perhaps Eala can keep it fairly competitive though.
Yeah, I'm sure she can. I mean, but I think, it seems like she's fairly realistic just seeing some of her words to press as well about she's kind of taking steps towards where she wants to be, which is a nice sort of way of saying, look, I'm not getting too carried away by these results. I'm just seeing this comments here. Yeah, this is a good step to where I want to be. The Filipino tennis player with the youngest in the round of 16 of the Miami Open, where she'll face Paula Badosa. Yes, indeed. So yeah. All right. Well, Eddie, I think that concludes our thoughts on the upcoming match between Alex Eala and Paula Badosa. And if you are watching this in a couple of days from now, do get in the comment section below and certainly mock me. I think Eddie's okay with being mocked too. But anyway, and do check out, of course, Eddie on Tennis Asia TV, where you can get lots more about Alex Eala, but also many other players. In fact, all the pretty much top players across the tour on the Asian side of things in particular. Thanks, Eddie, and speak to you soon.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.